Hello again, welcome to South Tonight, coming to you from Faith Leg House Hotel in Waterford. And seeing as we are in Waterford all this week, we have an array of Waterford guests for you to meet. For example, tonight we're going to be meeting a senior archaeologist who's here to tell us about some amazing finds that arose from an excavation prior to the Kilmacthomas realignment. So that's coming up later. First though, on a financial note, now in the past couple of weeks we've been talking about mortgages. Last week we were talking about payment protections when buying a house and looked at the essentials like life assurance. Well, today it is another essential, home insurance, and to sift through all that for me, it's Jerry Owens from Mobile Mortgages.
Martine, how are you?
Very good. Now, what are the basics for somebody what they should know basically about home insurance?
Well, the first thing is when somebody buys property, it's their main asset and they should insure it. All right. Whether it's a mortgage or not is not important. What's important is that the property is covered against damage such that they can make a claim on the policy to repair the damage or replace the property that's covered.
Okay. And then what sort of damage would one be covered for?
Generally speaking, the main items that come to people's minds would be fire damage, storm damage, escape of water and oil from a fixed vessel, and then you have subsidence, which in certain parts of the country has become a big issue. So they're the main items that should be covered under an insurance policy.
Okay, and should a need arise, will the insurance company cover the full cost of repair or replacement?
No. Most insurance companies have what they call a policy excess, and that's the amount of money that the customer is liable to pay in any claim. So to put it in context, if you had a claim for small damage, let's say it was €150, and the policy excess was 125, which is a standard, then the insurance company will pay 25. All right, and that's what you get paid. If you have a very much larger claim, then the 125 policy excess isn't a significant figure. But what the insurance companies try to do is they don't want to get claims for a tenner or for €20 because it costs money to process those claims. So they've put in this figure. It's the policy excess. It's the figure that you yourself are liable to pay if you have a claim.
And do you think people are aware of that there is something that they need to pay themselves in the event of a claim?
Well, I think they are aware that they do have to pay something, but between different insurers, you have different levels of policy excess. For some companies, it might be 125. For the companies, it might be €250. And it's too late to go checking your policy when you have a claim. You need to sort it out at the very beginning and do that when you're comparing insurance companies and the prices they're charging.
And the policy excess then, could that be higher depending on where you live in the country, for example? Not
necessarily on where you live, but there is a different policy excess for something like subsidence. That could be €650.
Is that because they consider it more likely to happen?
Not necessarily. It's not about where it's going to happen, but what you will have is certain areas of the country are certainly prone to subsidence, but it isn't about the occurrence of the risk. It's more to do with the value of what the claim would be. Like most houses, if you have a small damage to a house, it might be €5,000 for the repair of broken windows. It could be for the repair of smoke damage caused by a small fire, whereas subsidence could be $25,000 to underpin a property.
Okay, and what about something really drastic like a fire and the house is completely wiped out?
A complete wipeout, yeah. I suppose in that area it has become even more sensitive because houses built, say, 20, 30 years ago were built under specific building regulations, okay? Whereas today, houses have to comply with a whole new set of rules, particularly the installation of radon barriers in the foundations, insulated walls, insulated attics. So the properties built today technically are built to a higher standard. Now, if your property was, say, built in the 50s, it wouldn't have these items. Okay, so if you have a wipeout, it may mean having to excavate out those foundations and start from afresh. All right, and that is something that people need to consider when you have a wipeout. It's a much bigger claim. You're going to need to get proper professional advice, and that all costs money. And the other thing that people sometimes don't think about in a wipeout is you need somewhere else to live. And you must make sure that the policy terms and conditions you have will cover alternative accommodation during the construction period.
Okay, what about then in terms of a break-in? What would be the steps that somebody should take?
Very good question. the first thing people need to do is to phone the Gardaí. And the reason for that is that when you make a claim on the policy and it's for damage caused by somebody who broke into your house, the first thing that the insurance company will look for is, was there a report made to the Gardaí? All right. And in relation to making claims, there is something that is particularly important. If you come home to your house and you find, for example, that the water tank in the attic had burst overnight, or 2 days earlier. You don't know when it burst, but you're away for 2 days. And you come home and you find that the house is drenched with water. And you might spend the next 2 or 3 days getting organised. You need to get alternative accommodation, put the kids into school, whatever. And then make a claim. That for some companies can be too late, because some companies' terms and conditions require you to make a phone call to the company and notify them of an impending claim within 24 hours. So the first thing you do when you find that your house has been damaged, you either phone the Gardaí if you suspect a break-in, you phone your insurance company or mortgage provider to let them know, look, there has been damage, I'm going to make a claim, and effectively notify them of an impending claim, such that you don't get a response 3 or 4 days after the event where you're asked the question, when did this happen? It happened 3 days ago, and you're told, well, that's outside of our terms and conditions, and the claim could be rejected.
All right. Gosh, it seems very unfair, you know. But anyway, read the red tape and read the small print. Exactly. Okay, so just finally, I know often you mention that we should seek professional advice. Why is that so important?
Let's put the analogy. If you go to BT and you want to buy some clothes, okay, you're going to go and get a personal shopper. The person will tell you whether it fits, it doesn't fit, it's the right colour, it suits you or doesn't, it fits. All right. So I would see a proper professional advisor to be your personal shopper. And whether it's to do with buying the mortgage, buying the house insurance, buying the life company insurance, it's about having somebody who knows their way around the maze and can differentiate between what is a cheap policy and what is a good policy. And what you can't buy is you can't buy quality cheap.
All right, fair enough. Well, it's a big area, and I know we've only just touched on it. We could probably continue actually next week again. Jerry will be back with us as we continue next Monday with mortgage-related issues. If you have any questions indeed for Jerry, do send us an email to info@channelsouth.ie. Thanks again, Jerry. Now, we're here in Waterford all this week for South Tonight. There's a new book called Near the Bend in the River, The Archaeology of the N25 Kilmaccomas Realignment. It's quite a mouthful, but a very important book. It tells about what was learned from the archaeological excavations that took place between 1998 and 2000 along this particular stretch of road, and some very, very interesting findings. Well, James Oaken, who oversaw the project, is going to be sharing the information with us just after this break.